So, what's up, people, and welcome to another One Piece live action discussion. So, recently Netflix came out with an update with regards to the live action season 2. If you recall, a few weeks ago, they had their first update, and now they have an update to the update. And they talk about some additional casting, and I know there has been a lot of videos that have been brought out with regards to the additional casting on YouTube. And I will be going over some of that as well. But what I wanted to do was go over some of the information that Eiichiro Oda gave in his letter to the fans, which I thought was really nice. I really like Eiichiro Oda because he does connect with the fans with regards to the things that he is doing, whether it's in the manga, the anime, a movie, or in this case, the live action. And it really gives kind of a connection between the author and the fans, which I always liked. And so going over, there's some really important updates that came out. But before I do that, he also gave a drawing of all of the cast that came out in the original season 1. All of the Straw Hats, but based upon the live action characters rather than the manga characters. And what I have to say is, first of all, Eiichiro Oda is a pretty darn good artist, considering the fact that as much as it is manga-like, for some reason he was able to get the look and feel of all of the members of the cast, which I thought was great. But the big news that came out was that Season 2 will be covering only the first half of the Baroque Works saga. So that basically will include Loguetown, which we now know will be included because he mentions it here, but also, of course, Reverse Mountain and everything that goes around it, as well as all of the islands that follow it, including Whiskey Peak, Little Garden, and Drum. And what's interesting is this season will not include Alabasta, which is of course the main part of the Baroque Works saga, and it may make some people disappointed because they won't be able to see the main battles and the storyline that goes with that part of the saga. But for me, I thought that this was great. And the reason I feel that way is because now we will be able to get the pacing that I think we expected with Season 1, but we didn't get with Season 1. Don't get me wrong, I really liked Season 1. But there is one thing that everybody said with regards to that season, at least the manga and anime fans, was that the studio had to condense a lot of the East Blue saga when doing Season 1. And I think that was the case because they needed to put as much in as possible within the limited budget that Netflix was willing to give. They weren't sure whether this will be a hit, and so I think Netflix wanted to put in as much as possible so that they could get their money's worth. And I don't think that was particularly Oda's desire. And in fact, I think there was some discussions by Matt Owens who mentioned that Oda was a little bit pushing back with regards to how condensed Season 1 was. And why I find this to be really good is because as much as I enjoyed Season 1, I did feel that there was a lot missing with regards to the story. We didn't really get a good character development in Usopp because a lot of the things that happened in Syrup Village was changed, right? To be a shorter, more horror type of episode. And of course, the biggest disappointment came in episodes 7 and 8, where they really cut down on the Arlong Park arc. And a lot of the trauma that you saw Nami experience in the live action was nowhere near the trauma that the corresponding Nami experiences in the anime and the manga. And you didn't, of course, get a lot of character introduction with regards to Belmare, who in the manga and the anime is one of the coolest characters in the East Blue saga. But she was only very briefly introduced in the live action. And of course, we didn't get a really good introduction of Gen, right? He is the father figure to Nami. But you really didn't feel that in Season 1, live action. Whereas, of course, you really feel that in the manga and the anime. And so there are a lot of things that were left out, and yet it was still good enough to make everybody happy. So I am not complaining about season 1. But what I'm saying is, if they're giving Oda a lot more control to be able to portray the story the way the manga did, then I am really, really happy about that. Now, going further, there's going to be a lot of spoilers with regards to the rest of the discussion. So if you haven't read the manga or watched the anime, then I would suggest that you turn off this video if you don't want to be spoiled. Okay, so why I like this is because this really gives Oda the ability to tell the story like he wanted to. And what's interesting is in this letter to the fans, he did say that a lot of what he wanted to do made many of the people in Netflix and the studio very frustrated, right? But I'm glad Oda held his ground, because now, as much as I enjoyed season 1, I'm really looking forward to season 2. This will give each one of those arcs the time and the detail necessary to enjoy each one of those parts, right? And the other is that from a business perspective, this is really actually quite good for Netflix, because this gives the ability for Netflix to be able to bring out this series faster, because it's only covering the first half of the Baroque Works saga, but at the same time being able to pace it at a level that Oda wants to pace it without losing any detail. And that gives Netflix two things. It gives the ability to bring the second season out quickly, so that the people who enjoyed the live action and are waiting anxiously for the second season can see it as quickly as possible. But at the same time, it gives Netflix the ability to get payback on the investment that they do in season 2 without having to wait until the very end of the Alabasta arc. But at the same time, once again, they don't have to forcefully condense it just to do so, because they want to get that payback back, right? So from a business perspective, this works out well. And from, I think, the fans, it'll work out well. The only thing that may be of interest is, will the new viewers who enjoyed season 1 still enjoy season 2? And from my perspective, I feel that that will be the case, because I've always felt the Baroque Works saga is far more sophisticated than the East Blue saga, right? And so if they enjoyed even the very beginning, relatively simple saga of East Blue, then they're really going to enjoy the next saga, right? Because it does involve Baroque works. And the Baroque Works saga is One Piece's version of James Bond, right? This is the one where the Straw Hats goes up against something that is equivalent of Spectre in the James Bond series. And because of that, it does two things. One, it gives a really intriguing short-level storyline where the Straw Hats goes against this very interesting rogue organization. But at the same time, it also starts building the world to be a much more sophisticated world than what we saw in season 1. Also, because they will be able to get payback early, they will be able to invest more, I think. So Netflix will be much more comfortable in investing into the special effects that will be necessary for season 2. And because Oda will be able to focus on the story the way he wants it to, we'll get a lot more of the story the way we enjoyed it from the manga and the anime. And that goes in many directions, right? One Piece is a multifaceted story that goes into lore, that goes into action, that goes into comedy, and that goes into extremely sentimental drama. And in all areas, Oda will be able to invest a lot more than he did in season 1. And so I am looking forward to many of the things that will happen. And I especially want to see how the live action crew will do some of the really goofy situations that you see in season 2. I mean, I am looking forward to the time when you see this scene to come up in Whiskey Peak. This is a really exciting, action-packed moment, but at the same time, it is the most goofball moment of that saga. And Inaki will be challenged to see just how stupid he could play Luffy. Because as much as he was good in Season 1, we know that the anime and comic Luffy is far, far more of a goofball than the live-action Luffy that was portrayed in Season 1. And in this particular scene, in this particular situation, Luffy is ultimate idiot. And so, will Inaki be able to portray that? I don't know, but I am looking forward to it. Also, with regards to lore, they'll be able to focus in on very specific things that they may not have been able to if they condensed it. One of the areas is to clarify what is the Grand Line. The way it was explained in Season 1, I could understand why many of the fans said, oh, the Grand Line is the equator. Which, of course, for any of the manga fans and anime fans, they know that the Grand Line is not the equator. Yes, they are located in the very same part of the world. But of course, what differentiates the Grand Line from the equator are the calm belts that surround it. And of course, in Season 2, I expect that to be explained visually through this sort of scene. And why I say that I am glad that this is expanded is because this sort of scene may have been cut if they condensed it, because it's a very short scene, but it's relatively expensive because they have to bring the Sea Kings in. But it's seriously important to the overall lore, and they better put that in if they want the world building to work properly. And so hearing that, again, they will be expanding this, I feel that now Oda has the flexibility to be able to bring this sort of scene in. And of course, the goofy comedy continues on in things like Drum Island, where you see scenes like this, and I hope they still keep the hiking bear scene in the live action. But of course, it also focuses in on a tremendous amount of drama. And of course, one of the most emotional scenes that you see in the early part of the story comes up during Drum Island. And of course, because I am here, I'm going to segue into a specific character that comes out. Because they can expand and because I'm hoping that they have more funds to actually put into this, I am looking forward to seeing Chopper. And of course, not just Chopper, but every form of Chopper. So I know a lot of people talked about how Chopper will be represented. Is it going to be a CGI? Is it going to be a human? Is it going to be a marionette? I don't know. I hope that they do a good job with regards to that. But with regards to Chopper, of course, you can't represent him in one single way. So I think in his strong point form, it will be some actor who will be representing him in that form. But when he goes back to his usual Chopper form, yeah, CGI might be good. And I know that that might get expensive and it might be difficult, but considering the fact that Guardians of the Galaxy was able to bring out extreme amounts of emotion from a character named Rocket, you know that it can be done. And even in Season 1, you were able to see from the news coups how well that was represented, that maybe they will be able to do Chopper well. It's hard to say. It's going to be expensive to do Chopper if it is going to be done in CGI, but it isn't impossible, and it'll be interesting to see which way Netflix will go. Now, with regards to the casting, there are 4 additional characters who are now casted. So, Charithra Chandran will be playing Miss Wednesday, aka Vive. Senthil Ramamurthy will be playing Nefertari Cobra. KT Sagal will be playing Dr. Kuraha. And Mark Herick will be playing Dr. Hirlook. Yeah, that's an interesting similarity in the name. But yeah, I think once again, the casting is being done very, very well. So the most recent announcement was Charithra Chandran. And I think she is going to look fantastic as Miss Wednesday, aka Vive. Vive is probably the most important character to come out in Season 2 of One Piece. Yes, in the longer run, there are more important characters that will come out later, such as Miss All Sunday, which we do not know who will play her yet. But for this particular season and this particular saga, Vive is the most impactful character outside of the Straw Hats. And so I am very happy that they were able to bring somebody who I think looks very much like Vive in the anime and the manga. And I got a feeling that maybe Taz Skylar is going to have to practice not only his cooking, not only his martial arts, but his ability to say Vive Schwan when he plays season 2. Yeah, I'm just kidding, but yeah, it will be always funny if he was able to do that. But in any case, yeah, going on, Senthil Ramamurthy, I think he looks a lot like Nefertari Cobra, but he looks much younger than Nefertari Cobra. So yeah, it'll be interesting with regards to this one. I think he'll do a really good job, but it'll be interesting to see how they transform him to portray Cobra in the live action. And the way I see this is I am glad that maybe they chose somebody this young, because if the series keeps on going and they eventually get to the latter parts of the story where the Nefertari family becomes a very important part of the story, at that point, since it's so far into the story, it'll be many, many years before the live action gets there. But by the time it gets there, it may be great because Senthil Ramamurthy may still be able to represent an older Nefertari Cobra. I'm looking forward to seeing how he portrays the noble king of Alabasta, and I'm hoping that he will do a good job. Now, the one that I really like, although I'm also partially disappointed, is Katie Sagal playing Dr. Kuraha. I'm partially disappointed because as much as all the fans were hoping, they were looking forward to seeing Jamie Lee Curtis play Dr. Kuraha because she had mentioned in the past that she would love to do so. Unfortunately, due to conflicts in schedules for other work, she won't be able to portray Dr. Kuraha, and that is a disappointment. And I hope that is a good choice for Jamie Lee Curtis, because with the recent dismal box office numbers for Borderland, which she is in, I'm hoping whatever she is doing instead of One Piece will be a hit. But in any case, if you are going to replace Jamie Lee Curtis with somebody, I think Katie Sagal might be really good. And in fact, because she played Genma in Sons of Anarchy, and this is how she looked in that series, she's not going to have to do too much from that series to portray Dr. Kuraha, I don't think. I think she looks very much like Dr. Kuraha if you give her the right wardrobe. And knowing the personality of Dr. Kuraha, I think this actress will do really, really well. Considering in Sons of Anarchy, we saw scenes like this. Yeah, I think she will be able to portray that 104-year-old genius doctor that resides in the Drum Kingdom, right? And so, yeah, I am looking forward to seeing how Katie Sagal portrays Dr. Kuraha. But if she does it the way she did in Sons of Anarchy, then I think I can really look forward to that. And of course, then that brings us to Mark Herick, who will be playing Dr. Herick. And this one is going to be an interesting one because Dr. Herick is going to be one of the more difficult personalities to portray. And it's one of the more important ones, right? Yeah, sure, Vive is one of the most impactful because she is so representative of the Baroque Works saga, but everybody knows in season 2 there is one extremely emotional part of the story, and that involves Dr. Herick. And to be able to portray that really goofball, somewhat loser sort of personality as far as profession is concerned, but an extremely noble and very positive personality that of course is Dr. Herick, it will be interesting to see. And if he does this well, oh my gosh, the fans will be extremely grateful for his portrayal. So yeah, overall, everything looks really, really good. We still haven't seen Miss All Sunday. We still haven't seen Igaram, Mr. 8. And we haven't seen Ace or Crocodile. Now, with regards to Ace and Crocodile, I am thinking, because they only have very short appearances in this part of the saga, maybe they won't cast these people until season 3. It depends on just how much Netflix will be able to negotiate the money. If they can convince actors to play very short cameo roles in season 2, with a promise that they will have a much bigger presence in future seasons as early as season 3, then maybe they will be able to get the actors to portray very short scenes. But if they don't, I think these are the two characters that they may be able to do without the actual actors to be in place. Because in the case of Crocodile, although he will be coming out, once again, this is the James Bond look and feel arc of the series, right? And so Crocodile is basically the equivalent of Ernst Stavro Blofeld in James Bond. And if you recall, in the early parts of the 007 series, Blofeld was not shown with the exception of him petting his cat, right? And that gave that mystery, kind of suspenseful feeling with regards to who the big boss was. Well, considering that there is mystery with regards to who Mr. Zero will be, this will be a perfect way of representing Crocodile, just because there are so many people who remember the James Bond style, and they will be able to appreciate what this series is doing with regards to Crocodile. And so you don't have to have the correct actor. You could do it the way they did Smoker in the post-credit scene in season 1, right? But if you can get the actor, that will be great, because then the voice acting will be exact. And even if the scene is different, at least it will be the correct actor that's doing that kind of off-camera scene. And this is, of course, the same thing for Ace. Ace only comes out as a very short cameo role, and he's kind of filmed in the distance. So you don't have to have the correct actor to represent Ace in this part of the Baroque Works saga. You will, of course, have to have the right actor in season 3. But if they are trying to focus the funds to the correct area, they may be able to get away with doing that. Now, with that said, because Ace is such an incredible character in the One Piece series, they may be able to convince a character to play a cameo role just for season 2, with the promise that they will be hiring that actor for season 3 and beyond. And so it will be interesting to see how this will continue on. Most of the characters have already been casted. There are a few left. Probably the most important is Miss All Sunday, and of course Chopper. But overall, I think this is going to look really good. And I'm wondering if they will ever even announce Chopper, because it will be cool to see this unspoiled in how the live action will represent Chopper once season 2 comes out. So they may not tell us how they will do Chopper just to keep it a secret. But in any case, overall, I think season 2 is starting to look great. I think the pacing is going to be good. I think that because they are only going to be focusing on the first half of the Baroque Works saga, this is going to give Oda the ability to become really creative with the live action. And one final thought, if that's the case, I think season 3 might end up not only being Alabasta, but they may actually put Jaya into it as well. If you're going to have 12 episodes, you could keep the first 8 maybe as Alabasta, and I think you could represent Alabasta really well if you have 8 episodes, and keep the final 4 as Jaya. And of course, Jaya is a really short but really, really important part of the story. And why I think that is because if you close out season 3 with the Mary flying up to the sky, that will be a beautiful way of creating closure to the story and at the same time giving a cliffhanger to the viewers of the live action to wait for season 4. And if that's the case, yeah, I expect season 4 to be Skypiea. But in any case, what do you think with regards to how this is being brought out? Do you feel that this decision was a good one to only show the first half of the Baroque works? And if that's the case, how do you think Oda will influence the studio to bring season 2 out? Any comments will be greatly appreciated. And if there's any more information that comes out, I'll bring out another video. I hope you join me at that time. But this is the update with regards to the season 2 live action of One Piece. And until the next video, happy drama watching, happy anime watching, happy manga reading, and as always, have a nice day, everyone.